Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Joe from GadgetryTech.com, and today's an exciting day because I'm talking about the Recon 500 from Turtle Beach. This is exciting for a few reasons. One being the price point for a high-quality headset. It's only $80, and it works on basically anything with a headphone jack. So the universal compatibility and all that good stuff is great. The big kicker with these, and what I'm going to jump straight into, is the driver technology. This is the first headset from Turtle Beach that uses dual driver technology. These are the Eclipse 60mm drivers. 60 is huge, okay? Usually you'll get anywhere from 40 to like 53 for most gaming headsets, so 60 is like uncharted territory. Now, the thing is, when you get with larger drivers, as the speaker gets larger, they tend to struggle on higher frequencies more because they can't move quick enough to accurately reproduce treble. They can get loud and have a high treble, but it's not accurate. So what they did with this guy is they have the 60mm driver, which is insane. That increases your power handling and bass immensely. But they have a tweeter in the center of it. So without going into a full science lesson, the advantage of this is when you get into treble, that's a higher frequency, which means the speaker needs to move faster to accurately reproduce treble. When you get into mid-range and bass, those are lower frequencies, so they move slower. So by decoupling them and having two drivers in the headset, one can move quicker and one can move slower, and the advantage of that is they're not fighting each other on the same driver, so you get a much higher clarity, less distortion, and more power handling. There's a lot of advantages to this. Now, that's the way two-way technology works. That's called a two-way speaker. It doesn't guarantee it's going to sound better because it also comes down to tuning, how good the drivers are, etc. But in theory, a well-tuned two-way system should sound better than a well-tuned single driver system or one-way system. So we'll get into sound quality in a moment, but I wanted to explain why this is such a critical feature add and such a rarity at this price point. These are $80. That's insane. So let's talk about the basics. I'm going to give you the rundown on features, specs, all the basic stuff, how it feels, looks, how it's built, whatever. Then we'll do the microphone test. Then I'll do the sound quality explanation. I'll let you know what I think of the sound. And then, if you can see behind me, I did a lot of comparisons against some really popular, very good quality, sub-$100 wired headsets. So I'll give you my feedback on those so you know how this new one stacks up to those guys. All right, so right when you start unboxing it, it's fairly straightforward inside, okay? You're gonna obviously get the headset, you get the detachable mic, a quick start guide. This cable, as I mentioned, is not removable. This is a braided 4-foot long cable. It's designed for console gaming, so this is a perfect length for a controller, so don't expect anything too long. If you get a Y adapter for PC, that'll give you more length anyway, and then you can plug it into a traditional desktop. Or if you have a sound card that has a combo port, this one jack will work. Now, there's a massive feature that I love about this headset, and the reason why I'm calling this out is because if you notice behind me, I have the HyperX Clouds. Those are a great headset. We'll talk about how it compares, but the thing I hated about those is the inline microphone switch and volume rocker is kind of a pain to access. So Turtle Beach has always been great about user interface controls. You could tell a gamer designed the headphone. It wasn't just like some afterthought. So you have a volume rocker right here, nice and quick. It's not like a large, luxurious feeling knob. It's an $80 headset, but it's linear and it's smooth. You have a hard stop at max volume, so you know you're maxed out. Then you have a tap to mute or push button mute switch on the headset. It's not really tap to mute because this isn't a powered headset, but there's a press in and it's slightly recessed. You press it again and it comes out a little bit more. So it's not the easiest to tell if you're muted or unmuted. If you're used to the headset, you will be able to quickly feel that when the microphone is on, this little button sticks out just a little bit further. Initially, you may question if you muted it or not, but you'll be able to tell because no one can hear you speak. So let's be realistic with that. Now, as far as build quality goes, I love this approach. You have this, it looks plasticky, right? The outside is plastic because, again, it's an $80 headset. Now, they did metal where it matters, and you have a metal headband here, so that should help with durability. It also helps with flexibility, too, because of the way this is designed. This is actually the lightest clamp force Turtle Beach headset I've ever used. The common feedback I've heard from people, if for any reason they haven't been happy with Turtle Beach in the past, it's because they found the clamp force is a little too high, but the ear cushions were always amazing. So this is a step in a different direction with Turtle Beach, and it has a much easier clamp force, very linear. Some headsets are loose for like, a few inches, then they get really, really stiff. This is a nice, smooth opening headset. So I love that they lightened up the clamp force because it's going to play into something big here in a moment. These also do full rotation, so if you'd like to hang it on your neck, that's great. I love that it has that. Again, $80 price point, that's good. And then the little attention to detail. So if I move this, there's no rattle. And that's because there are little rubber dampers behind the fork for the driver, or for the ear cup. So there's no plastic on plastic noise, which helps. Again, it gets rid of rattles. It makes it feel less cheap, you know, because you can only do so much for 80 bucks. And if they go too hardcore on the quality and luxurious part of the build, that's going to take away from some of your sound quality, the mic, whatever it is. You know, it's always a give and take. So finding that balance is key. And I love that they made the most out of plastics to keep the cost down, but then have that metal headband and the little rubber dampers, the swivel. I think that's great. Now, these ear cups are huge, 60 millimeter drivers, and they aren't afraid to show that off. I mean, that is a big driver. If you have large ears or your ears stick out a bit, these are angled, and the space is open enough where, depending on how your head shape is or how large your ears are, you should still find a lot of comfort for this. Now, the other big kicker with this particular ear cup design, and another nice thing that Turtle Beach did with this model, is they use an aero or an athletic weave fabric, if you will. This sport fabric material, usually the downside is you get a little bit less bass response because it doesn't have a strong seal on your headset. And then when you couple that in with a lower clamp force, technically your low bass shouldn't be that good. Now, remember, 60 millimeter drivers, who cares if it has the athletic weave? This has enough bass where I was shocked at how much bass I still got out of it. We'll talk about sound more, but there's a huge advantage to this fabric is it gives you decent noise isolation. It's not as good as a leatherette, of course, but you don't have any of the heat drawbacks. You also don't have the same long-term durability drawbacks that some leatherettes have. It's come a long way. Some of the new leatherettes last a lot longer, but this should be a very durable headset, very easy to clean. You know, it won't attract fuzzies, if you will. Astro uses velour fabric, and some Logitech headsets use velour. And that feels amazing when you first put it on. It's like putting a blanket on your head. So comfortable. It feels like it breathes, but you're basically wearing earmuffs, and over a long period of time, it can get a little toasty. Even though you're not sweaty, your ears will feel hot. So this is one of my favorite type of materials for long gaming sessions. You factor in that it has a memory foam ear cup with a light clamp force and a breathable material. This is one of the best endurance headsets for long gaming sessions if you're worried about ear comfort. Doesn't really get any better than this unless you're spending an insane premium. This is about as good as it gets. Now, on the note of comfort, actually, I want to grab this real quick. These are my Gunars. These are the Intercept Onyx series. It's their largest, heaviest frame. I have several Gunars because I stare at screens a lot, let's face it. But the reason why I always use these for my benchmark is this frame has a pretty strong clamp, and it's large. So when you put this on, if I'm putting a headset on, this is the best way I can test for glasses. I don't have prescription glasses, but I test this for 3 to 5 hours typically straight a couple times just to see if I have any glasses discomfort. This is one of the, and I'm talking of any price range. I've probably reviewed about 30 headsets now. This is arguably the top 2, top 3, by far most comfortable headset if you wear glasses. So if you're trying to find a special pair of headset that you can wear glasses on, and you're trying to stay under $100, 100% this is the most comfortable I've tried under $100. The only ones that have been comparable to this are actually the other Turtle Beaches, the Stealth 700s, because they have that Pro Spec little dip in the ear cup. There's a pull tab. So if you need wireless and you can spend the extra, $70, sure, it's going to be a better headphone. But for $80 to get this level of comfort, this also has Pro Spec technology, which is basically this cushion is soft enough to handle a frame without increasing the pressure point. That's just what it is. And man, the comfort is top notch. Even though this looks fairly unassuming, they picked the right features to focus on for comfort. You have a normal leatherette top. That's pretty typical. It's not cross-stitched, so it's actually still pretty supple. And it should be durable. There's no sweat issues with leatherette on the headband, but it is comfortable. I have no pressure points. And because this headset can actually get small, if you have a smaller head, you should still get pretty good comfort. Pull it up a few clicks, and now I have a great feeling headset with a surprisingly good seal considering the material. So that's the comfort. It's solid. The build quality, again, no rattles. Very flexible, very adjustable, and because these are very easy to turn, pivot, rotate, whatever you want to call it, I have a nice natural seal without having to press and twist to feel like it fits right. Just place it on your head and it settles right in very quickly. So controls are great, comfort's great, and build quality is great. Now it's time to talk about the microphone. Okay, so now I'm talking to you on the Recon 500 microphone, and it's a pretty good mic. Now, it's analog, so there's no processing or anything going on in the headset. To get rid of processing on the PC side, I'm using a really nice amp DAC combo from a company called Schiit from California. They use basically, this is called the HEL2. It's a $200 amp DAC, so it's nice and clean. I'm not adding any interference to it. So this is about as accurate as it gets for microphone quality. Now, the Recon 500 mic is very, very flat sounding. It doesn't have any booming bass. It doesn't have any shrieking highs. It doesn't have like a hiss sound. It's just a nice, easygoing, laid-back mic that I don't think anyone's ever going to complain about. Some other mics are a little bit hotter and louder and brighter, so it has like that sharp sound to it. This is just a nice, smooth, clean-sounding mic, and as you can tell, it sounds pretty good. Now, when you do press the switch on the side to mute yourself, you will hear a slight pop, or at least your friends will, so I'll do that now. And now I'm back on. So there is a little bit of a pop, but again, it's an analog switch. That's usually what happens because you're doing a physical disconnect. So that covers the mic quality. Now, the only other thing I want to mention is the boom itself is a really nice rubber boom. It's a soft touch, very flexible. I can point it up, down, away. So it's a very forgiving microphone, and it lets me kind of get just the right spot. It's not too long of a boom, so it's not in front of my face. And there's no foam windsock, but it does have their True Speak technology. So there's a little bit of passive noise reduction or noise isolation, if you will, to get rid of some background noise. It's not perfect, but it does reduce it a little bit, which is great for a passive mic. The rest of it would have to be done on the software side, again, because it's analog. So that covers the mic. Now it's time to talk about sound quality. If you couldn't tell in the beginning, I'm pretty excited about the sound. So normally, if you have a headset that breathes this much, you don't really get that great bass response because you don't have a good seal. Also, I was nervous about the fact that a 60mm driver on a gaming headset, talking about bass improvements and stuff, that typically is scary because it could get very bassy, boomy, muddy very quickly. Sure, it's great for people who love bass, but if you're gaming and you're playing like an FPS game, that's going to be a real struggle to hear footsteps or details in the game, and you're going to get sick of that bass real quick. So I am pleased to say this is insanely well tuned. If I could describe the bass profile, it's not a super deep, rumbly, thunderous bass. It's just a very full bass. And if you like listening to rock music, this is the best sub-$100 headset I've heard for rock music because the mid bass on this is nuts. It's just, your bass guitar just gets a little bit bigger when you listen to a headset like this. You typically get a very strong V shape on gaming headsets, and you get that really deep rumbly bass, and then it kind of gets all over the place in the mid range or mid bass. Usually stinks for music. These have a nice, tight, clean sound. Bass is good. The mids are almost perfectly flat. In fact, you know what? I'm going to show you a couple screen overlays real quick while I'm talking about this. So I have a headphone test measuring rig to my left. I record all my headsets. I don't usually use them in the review because that's not to be used as a benchmark. These aren't official measurements. That was only a few $100. Really expensive headphone measuring kits are about $30,000 to $35,000 because I've emailed those companies and asked. A little bit out of my price range, but this gives me a good baseline. And I can tell you that this has a closer sound profile to my $200 headphones than it did to any other $100 and under headphone. That's tuned that well. The bass is a little bit higher, which honestly for a gaming headset a lot of people want. You get that deep bass, but it doesn't cross over into the muddy threshold. It's actually still flat. The mids on this headphone are insane, like almost perfectly flat, very full sounding. There's no dips in the mid range, so it sounds very natural. And this is where I was surprised. Not only was I concerned with the two-way drivers and having a 60mm driver for bass, I was concerned about the tweeter, the tiny tweeter in here being a little too sharp. I don't know how they pull this off, but this is, so Turtle Beach normally is slightly V-shaped because they want the detail for gaming. This is a fairly smooth sounding headset. The treble is not super high. It is actually closer to flat than any other headset I measured under $100. That's like approaching a reference level baseline for a gaming headset. And again, this is only $80. It's well made, and I love the controls. So if you can't tell, I'm totally in love with this headset for $100. Now, when it comes to efficiency of all 5 or so wired headsets I tested, this is the second loudest at the same exact volume setting, and I'm only talking by a measured 0.4% difference in output at the same volume. Some others were about 5 to 10% quieter, but these things get loud. The only one that was as loud as these are my HyperX Clouds. So, very efficient headset. The sound quality is amazing. So just to talk about gaming, I have a few reference games that I use. I use Warzone a lot because I'm familiar with it, and when I'm comparing headsets, I need something that's familiar. And the big benchmark for me is footsteps. Can I hear footsteps in the distance? Do I feel like I have to turn the headset up louder to compensate, which can hurt my ears, and over time you get ear fatigue? That's what happens when you have a headset that's too bright or too sharp sounding. These have, because they're incredibly flat, I still got really good detail. Sometimes you may want a little bit more treble if you're used to a very sharp sounding headset, but I can tell you this is the best, again, your long-term gaming sessions, this is what you want, because not only is it comfortable, but because it's not this shrieking sharp sound on the high end, you can keep a good, decent amount of volume going through the headset, and it's not going to hurt your ears or feel like it's ringing or you're getting tinnitus or something like that. I could hear footsteps extremely well. Imaging was great, even though it's a stereo headset. And on a quick note with imaging, a lot of people ask questions like this. This is a passive headset, okay? There's no amp, no USB, anything like that. So if we're using Dolby Atmos or Sony's Tempest 3D audio, that all works with this because the console's handling that. So if you're concerned with virtual surround sound, this headset will do it only because the console will do that on any wired headset, wireless headset even, without any issues. So don't worry about 3D audio support. So, sound quality is great. Warzone, it met and exceeded. In fact, for a flat sounding headset, I've had more detail and footstep awareness on this than any other fairly neutral sounding headset I've used. And then the other game I like to benchmark a lot on is Forza, because you have a lot of that droning engine sound, and if the headsets are tuned poorly, it can hurt your ears after a while, or the cars don't sound right, whatever. So I was extremely happy with the way Forza sounded. The engine sounded pretty accurate. The road noise wasn't overbearing. Nothing was too sharp sounding if you crashed. So audio tuning is phenomenal. So now the important question, how does this stack up to the competition? And this should, so to me, it's between this and the HyperX Cloud X, or Cloud, depending on what model. They're just a slightly different headphone. So the Cloud uses a little bit of metal. It's a brighter headset, so if you want just the utmost detail, you don't care about that sharp sound. The HyperX has a much higher swing on the treble, so it's going to be a little sharper sounding, might help with detail, but again, it's not a game changer, and I found that can get a little too sharp at some occasions, causing you to reduce the volume. When you reduce the volume, you don't hear footsteps as well. The Black Shark V2's an amazing sounding headset for the $80 price range. They're actually still really comfortable too. The problem with the V2s is their power handling is relatively poor. They're not that efficient, and when you turn it up, you get a lot of noticeable distortion pretty quickly. It's almost like that tiny driver is just not keeping up, and it's kind of falling flat on its face. So if you're listening to it at medium to high volumes and there's an explosion, these are going to crush it. The HyperX is going to do a great job as well, and the Black Sharks are going to fall noticeably behind in sound. The other one, and I brought this up, so Rockcat and Turtle Beach are the same parent company, right? They're all under the same umbrella. I've reviewed the ELO X stereo before. It's a sub $50 headset. It sounds very close to the Black Shark V2. It is an incredible headset for the money. So if this is out of your price range, then look at the ELO X. But just like the Black Shark V2, the ELO X has a power handling limitation. They don't get as loud, and at high volumes, they'll tend to distort and have trouble keeping up. To me, that's totally acceptable under $50, not so much at the $80 price range that Razer wants for the Black Shark. So to me, for the $80 to $100 sweet spot, this is reigning supreme. And that's because I don't like shrieking highs. I like a relatively flat, rich sound profile. I want it to sound accurate, and I want it to sound good with music too. These just crush it. So I hope you guys found this review helpful. This review was a long one considering it's a passive headset, but there are some game-changing things about this, and it's not, I shouldn't say it's atypical of Turtle Beach. Turtle Beach is an innovative company, but they dropped the hybrid ear cup. They don't have leatherette. they have these two-way drivers that are tuned so well and relatively flat that this is more of like your reference level audio sound than it is a traditional gaming headset. That's pretty commendable. I hope that you found this helpful and it helped make your decision. If you have any questions, shoot me a comment below. I can't recommend this enough. It's really just between this or if you want the sharper sound of the HyperX, in my opinion, just to be fully honest. But again, I can't stand that inline switch. If I'm gaming and I need to mute myself, I need a mute. I don't want to do this and find that little switch while I'm trying to play and hold a controller and getting myself killed. It sucks. So controls are huge, comfort's huge, and let's face it, the sound quality, this is like a pivotal change in the gaming headset market at this price range. So can't recommend it enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're going to be doing a lot of audio reviews coming up soon. So if you like what you see and you're not a subscriber, make sure to subscribe, turn that bell icon on because I got some great stuff coming out. Thank you again as always, and I'll see you next time.